Alright, so I'm just going to dive in. My project is Jacques Cousteau, the man who changed underwater research. So, my argument is Jacques Cousteau's contributions to underwater research and discoveries have had more influence than any other individuals to how we scuba and research underwater today. And why does this matter for us? With all the global climate change movements going on, none of the research or on oceans would have been possible without Jacques Cousteau's contributions. So I'm going to start with a little bit of background history. Ancient swimmers used hollow reeds to breathe underwater like a snorkel. In around 1300, Persian divers used thinly sliced and polished tortoise shells as goggles. Moving on down here, Edmund Halley invented the diving bell in the 1500s. These would have a hose connected that pumped air from the surface, and someone could venture outside the bell wearing a helmet. In 1772, Frenchman Sieur Firmin invented a rebreathing device that recycled the exhaled air. This was the first self-contained air device. And in 1876, Henry Fluess created a more successful rebreather, as we see here. After World War I, Chris Lambertson worked for the U.S. military on oxygen and carbon dioxide research, developing an underwater breathing apparatus for life-saving. Although these people and many others that I haven't mentioned conducted important research and invented solutions, none of them were successful in creating a device that allowed for underwater exploration for an extended amount of time or a very far depth. That brings me to Jacques Cousteau, the man who changed everything. The background is a photo from one of his documentaries that raised awareness of the underwater world. So I'm going to focus on three aspects: Cousteau's inventions, his research and environmental efforts, and his legacy in modern times. So, starting off with his inventions, in 1943, Cousteau invented the aqualung, and this is a picture of him right here actually using his invention. And this is a system of regulators that remains the core of modern scuba gear and played a huge role in opening up the ocean to millions of people. So this is his most famous invention because it's the core of what we use today. In the 50s, Cousteau worked with an engineer to develop a mini submersible vehicle, the diving saucer, and two smaller sisters, the sea fleas. The diving saucer can go 350 meters down and stay under for 5 hours, and the sea fleas can go up to 500 meters below. Cousteau was also a pioneer in the field of underwater photography. In a partnership, he created the first fully waterproof camera. Named after his ship, the Calypso Fought camera could operate down to a depth of 60 meters without a case. Now, I'm going to talk about Cousteau's research and environmental efforts. So, Cousteau directed and filmed many documentaries to showcase the underwater world. His productions won Academy Awards, recognition at the Cannes Film Festival, gold medal of National Geographic Society with John F. Kennedy down here, and President Ronald Reagan awarded him the Medal of Freedom. His most famous documentary, which won 2 Oscars, is called The Silent World, made in 1956. Cousteau became most known for his television series, which ran for 9 years starting in 1968 on ABC. He explored things like whale migration and sunken ships. After he led a voyage to Antarctica in 1972, a worldwide television audience saw for the first time the beauty of sculptured ice formations from under the sea. This just goes to show how important his films and show were in raising international awareness of the environment because most of this had never been seen before. Further, Cousteau worked with many governments to further environmental preservation, including the U.S. government. He also founded environmental organizations in the U.S., Canada, and France. The Cousteau Society is now led by Jacques Cousteau's widow, and the society continues to be at the forefront of environmental protection and research. Organizations he started are still helping the world today. Project Hermes is spearheaded by Cousteau divers and studies the effect of climate change. Additionally, UNESCO Cousteau Ecotechny Program, USEP, is an international initiative that promotes interdisciplinary education, research, and policymaking in the field of environment and development. And lastly, I'm going to talk about Cousteau's legacy in modern times. Um, Cousteau's aqualung transformed diving from a dangerous pastime for a small number of daredevils into an accessible and safe hobby engaged in by millions today. In 2014, over 3 million Americans alone participated in scuba diving. A century ago, this was not possible for more than a handful of privileged individuals at a much higher risk. His legacy lives on through his actions as he involved the government and started up organizations that continue research and environmental preservation today. The Cousteau Society has been exploring the seas, establishing protected areas for endangered species, and advocating for the silent world since 1973. With all his contributions through inventions, media, and advocacy, Jacques Cousteau should be recognized as the individual that led to how we scuba and research underwater today. Thank you for watching my presentation, and the questions are on the assignment.